Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are looking at two bigger sets. Actually, it's kind of the same set in a lot of regards. We have the Cobra Hiss, Techno Viper, and HMS Heat Seek Missile System. And of course, then we have General Hawk with the Mobile Missile System. Really, it's kind of the same setup, different kind of color prints, and we're kind of going from there. Doing bigger sets like this is always kind of challenging because I'm doing this on a pool table. You can see Legos, and I've got my M&Ms into jars and all that for being silly. Just trying to fit everything on here and trying to get it so that way you can see everything I'm doing. So if I get things out of and I've done this a couple times. If I get things off screen, I always apologize for that. It's not something I'm trying to do. And it's just kind of one of those things that just works, unfortunately, in those regards. So looking at what we're supposed to have here on the Heat Seek missile system from Cobra, looks like we do have a Hiss driver or Hiss Techno Viper. We have a rifle, a pistol, a couple wrenches. Looks like we have some sort of hammer, tow cable or something here, and maybe a controller. This might be the controller and the connector cable for the missile, as well as his backpack, some sort of other device here, and of course our three missiles for the system itself. So let's get this one opened up, and then we will get Hawk out on his, and we will see how these all work out. Now, I don't have any of the other vehicles here. I'm going to guess that they should be able to hook up, so that way we could actually transport them. So I have this all coming out backwards. And we have our box here, which is going to have the missiles and all the other fun stuff in here. Here's our instruction manual. So there's going to be a little bit of construction. See you later. All right, as my wife takes off, going off to an appointment here. All right, so we will have to put the base together as well as getting our missile launch system together here. Let's flip this over and see what wonderful things we can see as we have our missiles here, our figure, and all that. Looks wonderful. Nice kind of base system here. Like I said, we have our missiles that hopefully you guys are seeing better than I am because I have the ledge here. Let's see. I'm going to have to cut these out a little bit. Trying not to get my own fingers, because that would be funny to watch. Oh, come on, you. All right, well, now these are some pretty massive missiles, especially when we compare them to how long our figures are. So this is definitely taller than our figures are. Some nice size missiles here. We're going to kind of set these off to the side and go from there. Okay, now we have our unit, which we will actually, I got a scissors here that might work out a little bit better here, trying to get all this out. Mainly because I'm doing this at a bad angle for me. Hopefully good for you guys, but just a little bit of a bad angle for me because you guys can see better, which is the important thing. Now, I was able to pick these up off of Amazon. Now, I don't know what we're looking at for prices or whatever else. When I picked them up, I don't remember them being overly bad as far as the prices went. They seemed fairly reasonable to me. Like I said, the prices, unfortunately, they fluctuate up and down so much that I just don't know what to say they're actually going to be like if you were to look them up, and how many are going to be available. Although I will note that right now the Cobra Stinger, the Jeep, the Cobra Jeep. And my mind's just running a blank again, as always. That is currently running at a fairly good price. When it first came out, I think it was running for about $100, and right now I think you can pick it up for maybe $70. So if you're looking for a copy of that, now is actually a pretty good time to be able to order it for Christmas for that favorite Joe or Cobra lover in your own personal household. And we have someone else being... There we go. Okay. So now it looks like we got everything out of here. We'll get that out of the way as we look at our Cobra Trooper. Honestly, he looks like he's got a little bit of a Cylon look for his helmet here. He's got some cords here. So he looks like he's fully encased here. He could probably go out in space from the looks of it. Looking at his boots here, we have our standard ankles and that. Not as much going forward as we do going backwards, but still not bad. Our boot, because that connects, does twist, and he does have the double knee. Now we have a male figure. Oh, but if you notice, a lot of the drivers lately have been females, which is perfectly fine. Gets them into the conflict without a problem on my end. I mean, give them a vehicle to help them haul some of the heavier equipment or whatever. That works out pretty good in my book. Going from there. All right, so he can do crunches. He's pretty articulated there. They did pretty good for the armor for trying to do that. Like I said, his helmet almost looks like it's got a little bit of like a Cylon, or even like the phase, well, the Dark Trooper. I almost want to say phase 3, but there's 3 phases for the Dark Troopers in the Chronicle Star Wars. Phase 1 was melee. Phase 2, they had some different melee weapons. Phase 3, they had actually given them blasters. They didn't want to give androids blasters, mainly because of the Clone Wars and everything else. Some of those fears. They didn't want the droids having that firepower. But now looking at it, we do have a kind of like a all right, Fallout, kind of like a Pip-Boy or electronic device here for controlling maybe the missile launcher, or getting information or something. If he's a Techno Viper, which I think is what it said, he's also going to be doing communications, so that might be a upgraded communications pad for him, kind of like the cell phones. All right, now let's get all this out and see what we have in here. So I open it up from the bottom. 2 and nothing. Okay. Set that on top of our boxes. Have a cable in there yet? All right. Goes there. And then all right, it looks like that's all of it out of there. Okay, so looking at what we have here, we have to put our tires on. So looking at our tires, kind of unlike some of them where it had a certain design where it looked like it should really go one direction or the other, this one does not have that type of a design. So I don't think it's really going to matter which way you put it. Snaps on pretty good. Snapped on. Now we have to put on our feet in the front here. There we go. Goes up. This is a little tight in here. There we go. All right, they're up. And then this is our tongue. So it's going to snap on the front. There we go. And it's supposed to go down. Oh, apparently my phone is... I'm supposed to have some feet in the back, it almost looks like. Aha, there's the feet in the back, they're already on there. So when this lifts up, the tires will be completely off the ground here. So as we're looking at that, and this can fold up, and then kind of down. And then all this gets to sit on top. And then there we are. All right. And we get to load up our missiles. Am I backwards on this? Push you a little closer to me so I can see a little bit better. Nope. Okay. So this has got a notch going down, so that way the heat seek missiles will go there. So it does go on very much like this. Now this is a fairly substantial unit here. I wonder if I have a tape measure handy, which normally I do on my messy pool table, but I don't see one offhand. So I know I've got one handy somewhere. I just don't know exactly where I set the little bugger. And because they're needed in some of the role-playing games, and that so we have roughly going from here, so this is going to be about 9 inches, so kind of nice. Now our computer, let's see here. We have a control box here. Alright, so it's showing like what the computer right here. This is the cover for that. That's what we have. Okay. That covers that up. Like I said, we have some wrenches, a hammer, pickaxe, and another wrench. I don't know where we're supposed to put these offhand. Sure, there's got to be a spot here I just don't see, but we do have them available. We do have some stuff here. This looks like it's a flamethrower, so oddly enough it looks like I'm supposed to go from there to his. That takes care of that. Now we explain what all that was. So he's a flamethrower trooper. Not really the funnest guys to be around during combat. We kind of learned a little bit of that stuff during World War II. And his wrenches go here, which explains where those all go. World War II, one of the problems that they had, because we have the big tanks. Now he's got some small tanks, and it does look like it's fairly armored around here. But the problems that they ran into during World War II, and he's got a nice pistol. Hopefully you guys can see this. It looks like it's got a laser light or a flashlight underneath. One or the other, or maybe possibly even both. But the enemy would either target meaningfully target the gas tanks on the back, or inadvertently hit it, and then unfortunately those tanks would go kafoom, and that would not be a very good time for most of our troops. So shortly after that, I believe that they kind of started phasing a lot of that out. Not saying it wasn't needed, because even in Vietnam, I think it made a little bit of a resurgence. But when you're trying to get people out of tunnels and all that stuff, it does come in handy. But the problem is, it's not a fun thing to be around, especially once it takes fire. So just kind of throwing that out there. Unfortunately, I don't know if I have the backpack on correctly or not. There's a part of me that almost wants to say that this should be turned around, but I'm not 100% certain. So I'm just leaving it this way. We do have our wrenches and all that in here. He does look pretty good. Turning this around so hopefully he can look at it, see everything. Now I have this display, which I don't know where that's supposed to go offhand, but it's showing, it's almost like a holographic display that he should be able to bring up on his device here. And it looks like it should be able to fit in, say, here. So you can kind of look at it and see how he's doing. Possibly for trying to come up with a fire scenario. So you can shoot this off, and that works out pretty good. Now let's get General Hawk out here and see what we have for him. Now the nice thing about him is he's back into our standard good old-fashioned olive drab. Kind of getting that 1980s look again. All right. So as we look at this, packaged differently, and then we actually have some of the ground effects here. So we get some of that fun stuff to play with. They could have almost repackaged everything just exactly the way it was before, but looks like they decided to go against that for one reason or another. That's in there somehow. There they are. I wasn't seeing them at first. This time I've got it angled for me so I can see a little bit better, which is kind of helpful. And alright, so we have blast effects, damage effects. Again, we have the same tires. These are the exact same tires, which makes sense. It doesn't really seem to pay to change something up if it works good already. Then we have Hawk, and he's a younger looking Hawk too. All right, so putting this all together is going to be the same way. Seeing that I know I don't have to worry about where the tires are. There we are. So it sits on one way. You know, and it's all nicely done up. Now the Cobra's in black with white lettering. We have all nice print on here, so it really does look nice. Kind of fan blade. I didn't really look on the Cobra one. I'm sure it's got it all on here. You know, we have our brake lights, so we'll have to get the Cobra one to look the same way here. Get our stuff out here real quick. Get her all put together so we can have them side by side. Now this is all done a little differently too, because we had a little spacer in here, so However, we have this is done a little differently. We have some more blast effects here. Okay. All right. So as we're looking at this, we see that we have a scabbard or a holster here for a backpack for Hawk. We have our stands here to try and get on. Oh, come on, you. There we go. All right. And this has got some different prints in here that I did not see on the other one as I knocked the camera around. All right. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, whew. Thought I broke it. I heard it click, and then when it came off of here. Okay. This is all very tight, so just being honest. And of course, I don't have the best track record here. We've all seen me break some of this stuff before, so then I was nervous. All right, and we have that same pad or panel cover that we have on Cobras. We don't have the wrenches on this one though. So just kind of throwing that out there. Now looking at how this one is in comparison to how the other one was. Because it should all work about the same. Up like that. We have our missiles. Where did I put our missiles? There, well, they're right in front of me. The green's blending in. That's it. Time to go home, folks. Time to go home. Okay. And they're pretty much the same missiles, which does make a lot of sense. You know, you're reprinting the whole thing. Just giving a different print on it. Works out pretty good. If it's not broke, no big need to change it. Now this is kind of nice because we could put this onto the back. And of course then we have all the swoops. So if I had this on the ground, we could do a little swoop or so. Like that. See, this is going to just be ground effects like you got hit. So you get the ideas on those. And then because we talked about it, let's actually take a look. And yes, we do have that same print here. And all the nice print on the side here, as well as the brake lights and all that. So, okay. Now Hawk has got a helmet. He has a pistol of some sort. Looks like a old 1911 in a lot of regards with an extended magazine here. So hopefully you guys can see that pretty good. It looks like I said, an old 1911. Has that look to it. Which Hawk is going to be kind of old school in that regard. So I think it makes some sense. Got his combat knife here. And you can argue on what kind of combat knife that's going to be, if it's going to be a K-bar or whatever. And then we have another pistol here. Now this one, it doesn't have the notch like a 1911, but it definitely has the hammer on here. So whatever, whether you want to see that's down to like a 9mm or whatever, for what a lot of other soldiers are probably carrying, we have that. So put his 1911 on his back hip, and this one up here. Now this has got a little strap to go over so we can hold that in. And trying to get that to want to lock in there. It's supposed to. Just having a dickens of a time doing that. Come on, you. Don't be silly. Alright, we got her. Okay. Took a little bit of work to get it in there, but he's got his vest. He's got the 9mm, which I'll say it's a 9mm, and that's probably what he's supposed to carry, but he's probably old school, and he says, I'm still keeping my old trusty 1911. And of course, he's got his helmet on here. So really, the way he looks, I mean, you can almost substitute him as almost anyone. Having a kind of plain look to him, he could almost be pawned off as anyone. Although me personally, I think I'll just leave it as just getting one of these, because if I just have Hawk, then it's Hawk. Or at least that version of Hawk. Let's see. I should have a spot for his knife. I just don't see it. He's got a little pouch here. I could put something there, but I just don't have a spot for the knife. So now I'm kind of at a loss here. He's got a nice knife here. Alright, so he's got jungle boots. So this goes back a little ways. He's got the look of having jungle boots, which takes us really right back to the old Vietnam era, especially with the green like this on the black leather here. He's got the double knee joints, so we can pose all that. We can do his stretches. He's got the twist here on the top of the calf, and he can do crunches. We have that available. And he's got a torso twist, so we can twist that torso around, so he's fairly agile there. He has a double shoulder, which, looking at the other one, it looks like our Viper does as well. And he's got his bicep twist, as well as the double elbow, which is kind of nice. So he's got that full articulation, which works out pretty good. All right. And then we have a couple of guns here for him. So he gave us 3 different types, depending on what you prefer to have them with. This is an M16A2. Yeah. Although they do have a little bit of a different stock on the back end here. But yeah, that's the old M16A2. It's the A2 because it's got the little plunge on the side there. He does have a submachine gun here, as well as having the old G.I. Joe laser rifle. So, laser rifle fits. No? Okay, there's no hole on the bottom here, so as far as where to put that, I don't know what to tell you. But we do have a holster here for his, or a scabbard there for his knife. Magazine comes out. That fits in there fairly nice. And that actually might even be a holding spot for the magazine itself. So depending on how you want to do that, you can fit the magazine in here and his rifle. And then of course then we have the M16. Magazine comes out on that. And there's no magazine to pull out for the laser rifle. So depending on which one you want to have, whether you're the fan, more of the fan of the comic book or more of the fan of the cartoon, whatever you grew up with, you have that availability. I think you're going to find more of the M16 on the comic book and more of the standard laser rifle in the cartoon because everyone had to have the lasers. So we had the blue lasers, the red lasers, some of the same things. And between 1/4 blue laser, 1/4 red laser, and the other half was uh, the knowledge. So, because knowing is half the battle. All right. So this gives us a nice look at these two nice vehicles to kind of throw out here. These are the vehicles I really think that they should be working on. Smaller vehicles, stuff that we can. Okay, if I can get the hold the line up here. Smaller vehicles we can put up on the shelves. They're not taking up a ton of room. I mean, it is wonderful having some of the bigger vehicles, but when we're talking about bigger size action figures to begin with, I think going down to a smaller size vehicles, the Jeeps, the four-wheelers, the whatever, I think that works pretty well. This should actually hook onto the Jeeps for the tongue here for towing. Oh, as I go to knock them over. And we'll raise up the feet. Take these off. We don't want to shoot those while we're actively moving. We'll rotate that back, up, and up, and then there we are. And that should be able to be trailered pretty easily. Like I said, I don't have the other vehicles out here, so I really can't say exactly how well that's going to trailer, but it should trailer pretty good. Or just kind of put it down here like this until it gets picked up and trailered. I don't know how heavy this would be, but with those missiles on there, I'm going to say that this is probably... I'm sure these aren't light missiles. Looking at exactly how big they are, I mean, I'm sure that they're going to weigh maybe 200 pounds a piece. So we could be looking at maybe a metric ton here, going from there. And then you're going to have a Jeep or something hauling that. So a lot of nice fun that we could have with this. Great scenarios and all that stuff. A lot of things we could have going on the shelf. If you have a big enough shelf to throw these on there and have it look like they're shooting at each other. A lot of fun to be had. But with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. Hope you enjoyed these. Hopefully, if you're looking for these, you can find them on Amazon. Hopefully, they're still there and you can get them at a decent price. That's always, one of the biggest things, if you can get it at a reasonable price. I want to say they were about $50 or so when I picked them up. And the funny thing is I had ordered Hawk first, and then because I always scrolling, I happened to find the the Cobra version of it much later, so it just popped up and it was roughly about the same price. So I was happy with being able to see that. Now I don't know where they're sitting today. This was a little while ago, but here we are. Hopefully you can find them at a decent price and we can go from there. With that, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.